God grant me the serenity to accept things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. This prayer is commonly known as the Serenity Prayer, and it's been an important element of Alcoholics Anonymous and most all other 12-step programs since AA adopted it in 1941. And this prayer has saved thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of people's lives. If you are in a 12-step program or have ever been in one, the Serenity Prayer is not a cliche or a euphemism. It's an anchor in the storm of living with addiction. The Serenity Prayer most likely comes from a spoken word in a sermon by Reinhold Niebuhr, about 1932. But the original prayer is a bit longer and more Christian in verbiage. Niebuhr was a Lutheran minister and theologian, and the original prayer is this: God grant me the serenity to accept things I cannot change, the courage to change things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as the pathway to peace, taking as Jesus did this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it. Trusting that you, God, will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. Amen. This version is rarely used or heard, perhaps because it's so specific in theology and in its language. But the three-line Serenity Prayer is widely known and quoted and misquoted. As with common with anything that's in our culture, variations appear. And as I was researching this, there are humorous modifications of the Serenity Prayer. And I found dozens of variations, and I'd like to share with you some of the more tasteful, humorous ones. God grant me the senility to forget people I never liked anyway, and the good fortune to run into those ones I do like, and the eyesight to tell the difference. Another one: give me coffee to change the things I can and wine to accept the things I can't. And the last one: God grant me the serenity to accept stupid people the way they are, courage to maintain my self-control, and wisdom to know that if I act on it, I'll go to jail. I can understand why the original Christian prayer was condensed and abbreviated for the ease of remembering, and while it still contains the core message, grant me the serenity, accept things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Just these three simple lines, but they contain volumes. There's really three prayers here. One, grant me the serenity to accept things I cannot change. This is a profound prayer for those of us who take on the woes and evils of the world as our own personal burden. A prayer for those who are driven to control other people, events, timings, outcomes. An aspirational prayer for not feeling personally responsible for every bad thing that happens. It's a prayer for the freedom and the serenity of acceptance of things well, way beyond our control. The second prayer, second line: the courage to change things I can. An inspirational, aspirational prayer for making positive change in myself and the close circle around me. I can control some things, and I need courage to keep trying. The third prayer: and the wisdom to know the difference. For me, this is the core of the Serenity Prayer, asking to navigate life's challenges with wisdom. For without wisdom, we are doomed to repeat the same behavior over and over and over, expecting a different outcome. Wisdom can come from age, if you're lucky. Wisdom can come from experiences, if we pay attention and learn from our mistakes. Wisdom also can be an elusive ghost in the fog when we're overwhelmed, dealing with our frustrations of trying to change things we cannot control. But the Serenity Prayer is not a universal tool for every situation and for dealing with all of life's challenges. The prayer can be misused as an apathetic surrender of some situation that you just don't feel like you can change. If an abused woman prays to accept her situation because she feels she can't control it, that's a misuse of a prayer in my view. It's like saying it's God's will to every social injustice. Facetiously, it must be God's will that so many people died of COVID. It must be God's will that the climate is changing. This interpretation that we cannot change things, that we cannot change anything, that's just an excuse for avoiding the hard work it takes to change the things we can. The prayer can be misused as an excuse for the way things are, even if the status quo is horrible to some people. A kind of misuse interpretation has generated a lot of criticisms of this prayer. One of them is from Angela Davis, an American political activist, philosopher, academic scholar, author. She's professor at University of California, Santa Cruz, feminist, Marxist, longtime member of the Communist Party. She famously rearranged the Serenity Prayer to call for a political call for reform in 2012 with this: I am no longer accepting the things I cannot change. I am changing the things I cannot accept. You see the challenge and the dilemma in this version? Should we accept things or should we try and change them? Accept or change? For me, the lack of mentioning wisdom to tell the difference dilutes this version. Do you feel defensive and angry arise in you if I just tell you, just accept your social situation, keep your place, and serenity will come to you? Is the Serenity Prayer asking you to accept what is harmful to you? No. No, it's not. And maybe you can control a lot more than you think. Changing the things I cannot accept is a powerful political calling for justice. But social injustices can change. They do. They have. They're being changed now. Evils can be changed into justice, have been, continue to be changed. I would say that changing things I cannot accept is really line 2 of the prayer. I believe what she's saying is that give me the courage to change things I can. But there are things that you cannot change. Can you change how your parents raised you? Can you change how your partner, your child, your friend, your neighbor behaves? Or how your crazy Uncle Charlie acts at every Thanksgiving dinner? Can you change the decision that other people make? Can you change your body's degradation with age? Can you change the pain you have caused by some of your past actions? The Serenity Prayer asks that you see and accept that there are things that you cannot control. things you cannot change. And by accepting that you're not in control of those things, you're not personally responsible for them. Reinhold Niebuhr's prayer is not an original thought. Sometimes I laugh and joke that I'm not sure I've ever had an original thought in my life. It's just from what I've read and what I've experienced. The ancient Greeks taught a similar message to this prayer. Epictetus, a Greek Stoic philosopher, born a slave, taught philosophy as a way of life, lived accordingly, accepting whatever happened while remaining responsible for what happened. His writings were filled with reflections along this line. And here's a few quotes. Do not seek to have events happen as you want them to, but instead want them to happen as they do happen, and your life will go well. He also said, we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how to respond to them. I find that one so powerful. We don't get to choose what happens to us, but we can always decide how to respond to what happens. Stoic teachings sound like accepting things I cannot change and changing the things I can. Niebuhr modified his prayer in 1951, and a few new words helped me decide how I should pray for courage. His revised prayer starts, God give me the grace to accept with serenity the things that cannot be changed, courage to change the things that must be changed, and wisdom to distinguish one from the other. The difference is courage to change what I can, courage to change the things which must be changed, which should be changed. Courage to change the things that should be changed. That, for me, really grabs hold of it. Let's close this way. The Serenity Prayer, in whatever form you hear it, whatever form you use it, whatever you have on your refrigerator, it's powerful. It's 3 powerful prayers in one, guiding us to living a life of purpose and meaning without collapsing into frustration and anger. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. My prayer for all of us is that we continue to work and continue to find serenity, acceptance, courage, and wisdom. Don't be fooled. You cannot control everything. And don't be fooled. You can influence much more than you think or imagine. Don't be fooled. Amen, and blessed be.